our definition of what a 100-year or 500-year rain event has got to change. And so that's got to expand, and then going from 18 inches to 2 feet above the flood level makes sense. The fact that in the Cinco Ranch area, Harris County homes were 18 inches and Fort Bend were only 12, a lot more Fort Bend County homes in Cinco flooded than flooded in Harris County. So we've just got to do that, and the fact that the building community has not even flinched about it, as far as I can tell. Everybody's saying we need to do whatever it takes to keep us from flooding.
What would you tell the homeowner of a quote legacy home?
Buy flood insurance first and foremost, and then, if at all possible, take precautions. And there are other precautions. I had kind of an interesting circumstance. I guess 3 weeks ago, I was out for a morning walk early, and this woman literally came chasing me down the sidewalk. Judge Emmett, I've got an idea. And, we all kind of go, okay, I can hardly wait to hear this. Hers was more than an idea. It's a reality. In Miami and places like that, they have basically flood barriers that are around the outside of a home that look like planters. And you can make those 24 inches or 30 inches or however high. And I think somebody ought to get that process going, because there are some homes that you can't afford to raise them, but if you can, that's a good thing to do. But otherwise, protect any way you can.
Judge, in the speech today, you also sounded this call for the idea that the county is this unique urban environment, would be the fifth largest city, and needs some other source of revenue, possibly the sales tax. It hasn't happened. How realistic is it to do something like that?
I think it's very realistic. The question was another source of revenue. The state of Texas collects billions of dollars out of Harris County, and a lot of that money comes from unincorporated Harris County. Now, if that area was allowed to incorporate, or if the city of Houston was allowed to annex it, then some of that sales tax money would be going to that local government. None of it's going to the local government now. And if we are going to be the local government, then I think we should be really treated like a city. Or, I hope I don't get the mayor in trouble with this, he and I were talking during the reception, since it's all in the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city, that's what makes it unique. Other counties aren't like us. Like Dallas County only has about 6,000 people living in the unincorporated part of the county. Other counties, the unincorporated part, the cities are not prohibited from annexing, but because of legislation over the years, cities not going to be able to annex these areas. They're not going to be able to incorporate. Something has to be done, and I believe there are enough legislators that are aware of the problem that are going to be willing to work with us, and we'll move forward.
But as you also mentioned in your speech, there's a lot of pushback from the state legislature, attempts to limit the city revenue in Harris County or
There has been, and that's, if you didn't pick up on it, that was the whole purpose of today's speech, to say, look, enough is enough. We've got to have a serious conversation about this. We can't just keep, dangling this idea of an 1/8 of a cent tax cut is going to solve all the problems of the world, because it's not. We need to be able to provide the services in the government that people expect in an unincorporated area. Yes?
You talked about the perception of the world and the country when it comes to looking at Houston and Harris County as a flood-prone swamp. Does that mean you are going to do some type of marketing, putting money towards that, or what does it mean by that?
No, what I meant by that was we need to get about the business of making sure we don't keep flooding. Because if every time there's a rain, there's a big news story that says thousands of homes flooded in Houston and Harris County, that's going to be the perception that goes forward. So we have to protect against that. And I really think it can't be done immediately. But I do think we have to, since I've had all kinds of athletic analogies today, I'll have one more. If this is a contest with Mother Nature, she won. And we need to sort of admit that and say on the major watersheds, let's convert those to green space. Let's not build in areas where people are likely to flood, and make sure that we minimize this going forward. We live on the Gulf Coast. There are going to be floods. We have a lot of homes that were built a long time ago, and a lot of those homes were built in areas like the ones that have just been condemned along the San Jacinto River. They wanted to live there. They knew exactly what they were doing, but there comes a point where it's not safe, and it doesn't make any sense.
Judge, I mean, your tone, you were talking about homeowners beach and stuff. How do you anticipate getting that accomplished if the ones who are in charge in the legislature are on sort of the opposite side of the Republican coin, if you will?
Yeah, I think today was more of a call for partners, starting with the business group we're in front of, the Greater Houston Partnership. You may have picked up on the little interplay about why there wasn't the normal speech that I would have given in the spring. And it was fairly widely known that the partnership had endorsed one of Senator Betancourt's tax bills without even talking to the county or the city. And I said, wait a minute, that bill absolutely kills the county. We can't do that. We need you to be reasonable. And so, and I think, I cannot speak for the partnership or other business organizations, but I think what we're beginning to see is a pushback from people who are saying, wait a minute, let's focus on the issues that are really important, and let's make things happen and not keep pandering. And I did use that word, pandering.
Maya asked a political question. I'll follow up.
Was that a political question, Maya?
Greg just asked whatever.
Speaker Strauss said, we have seen the Republican Party pull away from core beliefs. Do you agree with that statement? And what are some of those core beliefs that
Well,
the Republican Party has pulled away from?
local control. And, of course, I also quoted Margaret Thatcher. I mean, this idea that we're going to have a populism, we're going to have direct votes on everything. And yeah, the Astrodome was the subject at hand during the session, but we have a Republican form of government with a small r. We have representative democracy. We don't have direct democracy. And some of the same people who love to talk about how bad California is want to do the same thing here by having everything voted on by everybody. That's just not the way to govern. The other thing is there's been a big pushback against tolls, for example. And when I was coming up originally, a user fee was considered the most conservative thing to do. Why tax everybody for something that only a few people use if there's not a social good like public school? It's just, and then the other conservative tenet used to be you spend wisely now so that you're protected in the future. You don't eat your seed corn. We don't seem to be doing that. You know, we're not spending on mental health. That's going to cost us down the road.
Use the term sooner when speaking about the bond issue. How much sooner are we talking about, May?
I don't know if it will be May. I think it has to be next year. I think the defining factor isn't going to be political. The defining factor is going to be when can we put together a clear list of projects? Because when you go to the voters, and I'm just speaking for myself, I know we're looking at over $1 billion, probably two, maybe more. But people want us to do something. And for them to vote for it, they're going to have to know exactly what they're voting for. And so we need to put that package together very carefully.
Back to flood control really quick. You said stop kicking the can down the road. Would you say that changes from the city and from the county are changes overdue? And partly, how do you keep people energized on this topic when it seems like maybe a year or so after such a devastating flood?
I don't think the people are going to let us forget about it in the areas that were flooded. And I will say one of my worries, even though I said there's this perception of Houston and Harris County as a flood-prone swamp, the reality is there were only 5 to 6% of the houses that were flooded. It's a lot of houses, and that's a lot of pain and suffering. But that means 94 or 95% weren't impacted, and those people are going to lose interest. And those are the people who are going to ultimately have to vote on bonds and things like that. So that's why we do need to move forward. But the people who were impacted, I can guarantee you, people in Meyerland, nothing's going to take this out of their mind. This is going to be their priority.
Judge, you were talking about the converting flood control funds to green space, and the example was that the reservoir. Where are we in the process with that? When is it just waiting for the state to say yes or no?
Where are we on the process of the third reservoir? Somebody's got to take ownership of it. And that's why I said I'm going to be the loud voice. And I won't say today was the start. We've started that process, but it was good that, George P. Bush, the land commissioner, was here, because some of that money flows through his office, and we need to, particularly if you're talking about a nature preserve, then he would be involved in that. We've just.
Anybody crunch the numbers to get a ballpark figure on how much of the rainy day fund, the greater Houston economy?
We're working on that. A lot of it, and we're working on that. And the third reservoir, for example, the cost estimates, they're rough right now, $500 million. That's 5% of the rainy day fund. That's all. And it could fund the entire project. Why don't we just do that? I mean, I think a state leader, the governor, somebody should say, okay, we're going to do that. Because that's not just for Harris County. That's for the whole region. That benefits all of southeast Texas. So we've just got to start putting that pressure on. And I am beginning to hear, well, gosh, I hate to quote President Trump's press secretary, but, she made the statement a week or so ago that they haven't seen the state of Texas put money in yet. That's an interesting comment to make. Because if the feds are saying, well, wait a minute, Texas, we want to see you put up something. Because at the local level, in order for us to do flood control projects with the Corps of Engineers, we always have to put up the local match. And the city has, come forward and helped us with a local match on the Braze project. So the state, they could easily free up $500 million.
One last question, Judge. You made an interesting statement. Representatives who are willing to accept federal disaster relief dollars should be willing to accept federal dollars for indigent health care. Has anybody figured out how much Harris County missed out on if we had expanded Medicaid in Texas?
The number, not this past session, but session before, when I went up and testified for Medicaid expansion, the number at that point was if the state of Texas had put in $50.1 million, they would have gotten back $4 billion over the 2-year biennium. Of that $4 billion, just under $1 billion would have come to Harris County, and approximately $100 million would have gone to the Harris County Hospital District. The rest of that money would have gone to like Memorial Hermann and these other systems that are providing indigent health care too. So it's not just a benefit to local government, it's a benefit to the entire healthcare system. And the irony is, if you start talking about then the tax dollars that go into Harris County Hospital District, or what we now call Harris Health, for those who say we should lower our tax rate by 1/8 of a cent, the direct offset could be 4 or 5 cents. So, you're talking about 30 to 40 times as much tax relief if you do that for the local property taxpayer than if you give them that little 1/8 of a cent tax cut. They don't want to talk about that. Yes?
I'm going to ask you how likely you think it is on the radio, how likely you think it is that it gets tapped in Texas for session 2019, and also how likely it is you think the federal government can put some more money in
The federal money question is something that I'm about to get more engaged with. I know the mayor is sending a delegation up next week, I believe, to Washington, and we're trying to coordinate that a little bit. We've got Congressman Culberson, Chairman Brady. We've got some people in the right places to help us with that. We just need to make sure it happens. What that ultimate answer is, I don't know. As to the state, if you remember, and I would really hope people would go back and play the video or the audio. When the governor and lieutenant governor were here, they were asked repeatedly about having a special session. They said, we don't need to do that. We can work through the LBB process and we can tap into that fund. Okay. I get to start saying, where's the money? Because they said it. We all heard them say it. So let's start pushing. And if they want to wait until the feds finish their amount, okay. But as soon as the feds say this is it, this is all you're going to get, then we need to know how much the state's going to get. Because until we know how much money is going to come from the federal government and the state government, we don't know how much money we're going to have to put in from the local government on the bond issue. Thank y'all.